Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
You love sports, and you know a lot. Your friends keep telling you, you should totally start a podcast. Well, it's time you listened and checked out Spreaker.com. People just like you have made their dreams a reality at Spreaker.com. For example, Jerry J-Rocc Myers started a Cleveland sports show called The Sports Fix, and now he has thousands of listeners. J-Rocc rocks, and so do you. Start your own podcast today at Spreaker.com. It's easy and free. That's SPREAKER.com.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from The Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult. Hey guys, J-Rocc here from The Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, live, off and running, another edition of the Sports Fix. Well, I don't know if it's another edition. It's a once in 4-year edition of the Sports Fix. Here we go. The leap year edition of this bad boy, as it's February 29th. This is not a common day, as you know. It only comes around every so often, and we are live here. So instead of kicking off the month of March, we have got an extra day in February. We loved it so much, we have got an extra day. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty positive that that's what's causing a couple of the issues that I've been dealing with here behind the scenes. I think that the extra date may be messing with me. One of my programs here, so I apologize. You may have heard a bit of a glitch during the introductory spots. If that happens again, there may be a slight pause as I have to reload the automation system. It's been glitching this morning as we got ready to go on the air, which it hasn't done in quite some time. So I'm perhaps wondering if the leap year isn't what is messing with it. We'll find out. Anyways, we'll get through this bad boy today. Dan Wismar is going to be in the house. You guys, we're going to pop open the phone lines early, hopefully get a couple of phone calls in, get things going. We've got all kinds of things to talk about. I'm not going to be one of these crazy dudes out here that's going to spend hours breaking down what cats in their underwear, and some of them less than their underwear, but are doing at the combine. But we are going to talk, seeing as how the Browns happen to own one of those high draft picks in the draft here again this year. And so we're going to do that with Dan. We'll talk about some of the stuff that we saw here in the past few days as the cavalcade of players parading around, getting their heights and weights and measurements and how fast they run and how far they jump and all of that stuff that only has so much to do with what they do on the football field. I heard a cat the other day, and I don't know who he was, to be honest with you, but I believe he was on the FM dial. But regardless, I was flipping through, and on my way to one station, I passed through another, and I literally only listened listened for 15 seconds because I didn't have to get much further than the first sentence I heard. This guy goes, "Hey guys, we're going to do snap judgments today on the combine. We're not even going to pretend that we've seen these guys on the football field before. We're going to forget everything they did on the football field. We're going to do snap judgments based on the combine today." I said, A, you're an idiot. B, anybody that listens to you is probably not very high on the interesting conversation scale, because they're probably one of those people that likes to have those same redundant conversations over and over again. Because first off, I love the fact that my man said, we're going to forget what we saw on the football field, where they actually play football against other players who are attempting to play football. But that's the problem with this whole thing is right now, too many sports talk people, and there's too much of it, and there's nothing to fill the airwaves. Therefore, they're going to spend your time talking about a bunch of that nonsense. We will get into some of it, as obviously there is some stuff coming out of there, and it does concern the Browns. So when Dan Wismar joins me, I will have a little bit of combine talk going on. We'll get that in here, and we are starting to roll into time to start getting ready for the draft. So we're going to talk a little bit of that, a little bit of quarterbacks with Dan Wismar. Much more important, at least to yours truly, and most likely to most other people out there. Indians, spring training going. We're going to dive into some of that. Babraham Almonte let me down last week. I'll tell you, sometimes I'm your curse of death. Sometimes I'm your boost of life on this show when I talk about you. Just last week, we're talking about the outfielders, and I said, man, that's my guy. I got my hopes pinned on him. I can't wait to see what Babraham does this season with a full season. And you know what? Hey, you're allowed to say this now because it's bona fide, proven on the paper, 80-game suspension laid down. There was a lot of curiosity from yours truly about his performance last year, and man, this dude is not the same. How did they just toss this guy to the side? We were looking at him play and thinking, boy, this guy is playing at a higher clip. Now, I'm not one to speculate. I'm going based off the facts that clearly there had been some performance enhancing as he was caught using Boldenon, which is a horse steroid, actually, that is very effective in athletes, especially when it comes to strength, leg strength, speed. But anyways, that's a bona fide veterinarian horse steroid. So that's not one of those that you could say you accidentally got it in your protein shake and GNC was spiking the protein shakes. That's one that you got to go pretty far out of your way to get caught taking. Anyways, that to me is a signal of why he was playing so much out of his mind at the end of last season, when you're going, boy, why did teams give up on this guy? Because this guy's got something going on. Anyways, disappointing to him and the Indians, as he is going to miss half of the upcoming season. Almonte will be able to participate in spring training, and then he's kicked to the curb, 80-game suspension. So the outfield position now opens up. That gives some more opportunity to Tyler Naquin. I mean, it opens some things up there. We're going to get into that with Dan when he joins us. And, those Cavaliers, last couple of games have been ugly. The style of play has been ugly, and I'm going to stick with what I've been harping on. These cats stopped playing defense the day David Blatt walked out the front door, and I'm very much questioning right now, if I'm David Griffin, I've got to be wondering if I made the right move after all, because during that first week, even I said, and I was anti the whole getting rid of David Blatt thing, I said, well, these guys, I don't agree with the whole it's a players league, but it is, and they're happier. So, unfortunately, the tail wags the dog. But that quickly has waved off. What is Ty Lue now as the head coach of the Cavaliers? What's he got, 7 losses? I think David Blatt lost 11. And I'm just saying, same players, same team, same makeup. It's definitely not picked up like you thought it would. It picked up on the offensive end and dropped down on the. How about my man J.R. Smith dropping down on the defensive end? J.R. Smith yesterday said, hey, man, when he was listing the things they did, I mean, if I could have high-fived my man through the screen, I would have, as he busted it out. He said, we damn sure ain't playing no defense, and he laid it out there just like that. And these guys need to fall on that sword, because that is what the Cavs have stopped doing. And say what you will, but that was one thing that the Cavaliers were the best team in the NBA at under David Blatt, was playing some defense. We're going to talk about all of that. I'm cracking open the phone lines first segment before Dan Wismar joins us. We got Buckeyes talk to get into. We got my man Joey Bosa. Man, I'll tell you, that's that combine crap that really just gets in my craw, man, because this cat, you'd think listening to people talk about Joey Bosa at the combine that he just tumbled into the middle rounds of the draft or something with his run, and get out of here, man. You know who Joey Bosa's numbers are identical to in the combine? Just some guy named J.J. Watt. You may have heard of him. You may or not have. I don't know. But he's just some guy who is the most dominant defensive player in the NFL. And he's just a beast among beasts and a guy that you would kill to have anchoring the Browns defense. And so, it didn't hurt him, but it's obviously bad for Joey Bosa. Get out of here, man. I watch these games too. That man is going to wreak some havoc in the NFL. Couple of ticks, not even. We're talking eighths of a tenth of a second, and these cats are tripping. We're going to get into all that, you guys. Let's rock and roll. Welcome into the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers with you guys here, doing the thing across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Thank you guys for tuning in live on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app worldwide, on Spreaker, our good friends at Spreaker.com, Mixler, their respective digital and mobile apps. Maybe you're listening live on the sportsfix.net, our home base, your one-stop shop for everything. It's there, the replays, the live show, the social media widgets, boom, all right there. Bookmark it, thesportsfix.net. Shout out to all you guys as well listening. Thousands of you around the world enjoying the show every day on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio and CarPlay, all of the places that you guys download, feed, subscribe, podcast, do the thing, and get your fix, baby. You know how we do it. Thank you guys again, always, for doing what you do and being a part of the show, which you're going to do right now on the phones. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. The number to call. I've already got calls in the queue. Facebook, Twitter, email, Instagram, facebook.com/thesportsfix, or you can find me, Jerry Myers, directly on Facebook, Twitter, at The Sports Fix, CLE, all one word, or me at J-Rocc Daddy, all one word, JROCC Daddy, all one word. Email thesportsfix at AOL.com, and you can Instagram me as well, the same, at J-Rocc Daddy. Facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter at The Sports Fix CLE, or at J-Rocc Daddy. Email thesportsfix at AOL.com, and you can Instagram me, J-Rocc Daddy, on Instagram. We're going to rock and roll. I'm going to get to these phones here in a moment. I've got a call on the recorded line. I've got a call on the live line. Matter of fact, I'm going to go to you guys before we've set the stage. We've got a lot to get into. Dan Wismar is going to be with us just about 10 minutes from now. But first, I'm going to toss it to you guys. Cleveland, kick me off on the Sports Fix. What's happening? Who's on the phones?
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning. This is my man, Bruce Wood. What's happening, Brucey?
Not a whole lot. Let me,
you don't sound happy this morning, Bruce. What's up, man?
Well, I don't know. It's just, I was trying to head there, down to Goodyear today, and, something came up, so it was delayed a day.
You're going down to spring training?
Oh, yeah. I'll be down there for a week.
Oh, that's excellent, my man. Why aren't you taking me with you? We'll do the show live from Goodyear. Come on, man. I'll fit in a small case. I can hide. Stow me away in the back, man. Come on.
A couple of my friends decided that, we'll make one last run. We're getting old, so this is kind of like our last hurrah.
Oh, man, hell yeah. That's on my bucket list, Bruce. Spring training is definitely something that I have every intention of getting out there. Hopefully I can take the kids with me and get out there and do it, but they're not as much into baseball as I am, but
I kind of live for it, so. You still there? J-Rocc. Hello?
Apologize about that. Told you guys there were technical difficulties plaguing us here, and for some reason they got us there. Bruce, my man, call back. I'll get you right back up in the queue and pick back up on that phone call. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. The number to call. Guys, get back on the phones here. Apologize about that. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that too much longer here throughout the show. If so, I once again apologize, guys. As people, I'm glad you could hear me. People once again getting us, and the Twitter's going. My man Ron Graham must be running the tweets right now. Thank you very much. Make sure you tweet with us and interact with the show as we speak, live, real time, at the Sports Fix CLE. Speaking of live, real time, my man Bruce Wood is live, real time, back on the phones. Bruce, sorry about that. If you lose me again, just keep rolling, and I'll rejoin you in a moment. But you're live, baby, so just keep going.
Okay. First off, did you catch any of the Golden State game on Saturday?
Other than the ridiculous highlight at the end, no.
They only led 53 seconds of the whole game, and that includes the overtime.
Right. Oh, I did know that much, yes.
I mean, now that's how you play defense. I mean, there was like 3.2 seconds left. They were down 2. They stole the inbounds pass and got fouled and went to the foul line, tied the game. I mean, it was just, you could almost count them out, but you couldn't. You knew that they were going to come back. And it was just, it was an incredible game to watch.
Yeah, I hate to even go where I'm going to go, but that's an incredible team. The things that they're doing is just unheard of. Yesterday, I got into the Steph Curry conversation with a couple of guys, and I'm not a big Steph Curry fan at all, but the guy's freaking unbelievable, and he keeps doing things that you say, okay, well, he can't, but he's not going to be able to keep doing this, or he can't keep doing that. Matter of fact, you guys, I talk about this. I'm a video gamer. I play some Madden. I play some NBA 2K. Love to get into the sports games. The creators of NBA 2K, which is the number one basketball franchise out there, said that literally Steph Curry is breaking their programming of the game because his skills throw their whole algorithms of how they program the other players out of whack, because the games, this is going to sound nerdy, but they're made so it's a lot more like a simulation. So they don't reward bad play. Like in the real NBA, guys don't cross over and step back and hit fadeaway threes off the dribble like some people do in video games. So they kind of take those away. But this cat is able to hit all the shots that they have trained the engine of this video game not to be good shots. So they literally have to recreate the playing engine of the game for Steph Curry. That's how much his skill set is continuing to do things people haven't seen. I kept saying, man, this guy can't keep it up. This guy can't keep it up. This guy can't keep it up. He doesn't only just keep it up, but he keeps doing more. I don't know where it's going to end, but we are witnessing one of those crazy runs that people will talk about. I was there when Steph Curry destroyed the game of basketball for 2 years.
Exactly. Which leads me to my next point. I don't know how much of my rant you read the other day about Cleveland fans, particularly. That's, basically what I cover. But, they hate on Steph Curry, or they hate Golden State, actually. And my point is, why do you hate a good team? It's not so much just Curry himself. I mean, the guy made some incredible passes. He handles the ball well. He runs the floor, and, but it's a team effort. And, and people say, well, I hate that team, Why? Because they're not from Cleveland? That's my answer to them.
They're an amazing team. I mean, Golden State is just knocked down amazing. And you know what? That's a squad that grew together. And I know I'm going to get into this when Dan joins us at some point, and I'm sure there's going to be some Cavs fans that are going to say, we're just piling it on today. But they're built up. They drafted guys. They put them together. The Warriors did not just win a championship. They lost first round. I think it was 2 years in a row. first-round exits in the playoffs and worked their way through that, learned how to win together. Look, guys, take this for what you want, but did anybody else listen to Andy Varejao after his first couple of practices with Golden State? And this is a guy that, to a man, you guys will say is an honorable guy, straightforward, so classy the way he left Cleveland. If he wasn't throwing a dagger back at Cleveland when he talked about, wow, I come into the first couple of practices and this is everybody for the team. Everybody's in it for each other, and it's a very team oriented concept. And not every team in the NBA is like this. And he's only played on one team.
LeBron's answer was, if I was 53-5, I'd love everybody too.
Well, that's fine, but you know what? Maybe that's part of the reason why they're 53-5, because they play basketball like a basketball team. They're not centered around one gigantic ego that the basketball universe has to cater to, and that to me is starting to show itself out. I don't care how good or not you think LeBron James is as a basketball player. There is clearly something tainted in the soup the last 2 years here in Cleveland, where, I mean, it's not coming together. They're only winning based on the sheer ability of their talent when it plays at its best.
Okay, and that leads me to the point I was trying to make about my rant. You know, these are the same fans that hated LeBron for 4 years, you know? Burn his jersey,
you know what?
his mom
I'll tell you what.
And,
you want to talk about that? Because I'm going to get into that with Dan Wismar here in just a minute. A guy looks at me yesterday and goes, man, you know, it's a shame that we didn't get the LeBron of 2012, 2013. I said, you know what? At the end of the day, that's something that as a Clevelander, you do deserve the right to hold against LeBron James. The fact that during the years that he was figuring it out and during the years that he was starting to be on the downslide, he had no problem packing his suitcase and putting Cleveland on the front. But the years when he was at his peak, the years when he was on top of the world, was the years that he told you guys that he'd rather play somewhere else. I'm just saying, if we're talking about the whole picture, we're talking about the whole picture. But, bro, these cats stop playing. And I know you're a LeBron supporter, and I'm not saying I'm in any certain camp, but these cats stopped playing defense the minute David Blatt was shown the door.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I have a couple of notes here about yesterday's game. They weren't passing the ball at all.
I know everything was
pass,
one,
and then they would shoot, or they would drive the lane.
Go ahead.
No, that was my point. That they weren't distributing the ball around. They weren't looking for the open guy. They were just getting the ball and shooting it.
And that is a lot of what I'm seeing. I mean, again, they may have picked up, and they didn't even pick it up as much. They picked up their offensive efficiency under Lou, which, again, to me, just means you're playing better. You're not necessarily doing anything more or different. But, I mean, there's something, as I said, whatever it was that they thought they were going to accomplish. And I'm not saying that this season is toast. I'm not one of these guys going, hey, they're going to lose in the East. They're still going to blow through the Eastern Conference. I mean, they're in the end when you're in the playoffs and when you're and now this I will say, I hedge my bets on that a little bit under the new coach, because I personally believe that David Blatt and LeBron James together as basketball mental people, it's very hard to beat them in a 7-game series. They were able to figure teams out. We saw that. David Blatt, to me, the playoffs showed what a coach he really was. And I don't care who wants to point out the mistakes that he made. He made more pluses than mistakes. And at the end of the day, he's one of those guys that gets better when you play the same team day after day, because you start to figure out what to take away from them. So I'm very curious what the Cavs look like this year with a different head coach in the playoffs. But
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Ty Lue the defensive coach?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best part of this whole thing right here is that all of a sudden...
I mean, they're not playing any defense under Ty Lue at all.
And sometimes, here was the point that I was making to a buddy yesterday, and I'll just say it this. This is kind of an idea, food for thought, is It's like when you work somewhere and you got your buddy. But Bruce is my buddy, right? And he calls the Sports Fix and he listens to the Sports Fix and we're friends. So, Bruce is talking to me one day and we go, man, wouldn't it be a great idea if you came to work with me? Yeah, man, then we could be together all the time and we could be friends working together. So you get your buddy Bruce hired at the Sports Fix. And the first couple of days, first couple of weeks, it's great. Except all of a sudden you start to notice a couple things that maybe you didn't notice because you weren't around Bruce all the time. And next thing you know, 2 or 3 weeks later, it was the worst idea. It's like when you get your friend in somewhere, but then they're in a position where they need to be, all of a sudden I've got to tell Bruce, hey, Bruce, I need you to go take out the trash. Well, why are you telling me to take out the trash? Because that's your job. But since we're friends. But since we're friends, I can't tell you to go do your job because we're friends. Well, all of a sudden, having the player's favorite guy as the coach that sounded like such a great idea is now not such a great idea if they're all just kind of going, Ty Lue, whatever. But like I said, I think what J.R. Smith said yesterday yells. It doesn't just speak. It yells volumes when he said, we damn sure ain't playing no defense right now. He knows it. He knows what they were doing last year. He's one of the guys that I think David Blatt got the most out of was a J.R. Smith. And clearly there is something there. It's the regular season. You can tell me these games don't matter. I still think they go through the East, but, it just goes to show you that, the best laid plans. And I'm interested to see how this thing plays out. But anyways, Bruce, anything else here on the Cavs?
Yeah, was it just me, or is Kyrie dribbling the ball way too much again?
Well, that's
or
all
was it because LeBron's not on the floor?
I hear you on that, man.
He was just dribbling everywhere yesterday.
He's got the best handles in the league, but sometimes that does you too much because you stick your head down and you dribble.
And everybody stood around and watched him.
The whole game in general that the Cavs play is like that, and it drives me crazy. I was reading over the weekend. I picked up some books, and one of the ones I'm reading for probably the 5th or 6th time is Tall Tales by Terry Pluto. If you've ever read it, it's a great book. And on the very first page, the kind of introductory paragraph, it's like they're talking about what we're talking about right now with today's NBA and the way the Cavs are playing ball, because it starts off with, there was a game back before the ugliness of isolation where one player gets the ball and 4 players stand around on the other side of the court and watch him dribble for 20 seconds. That is so much of the ugly part of today's game. And I used to joke and say, man, that's what they don't like about David Blatt's offense, is that there is no isolation in his offense, and that's why they changed it. And that, to me, that's why we ended up where we're at now. And where the Cavs find themselves now is figuring out in midstream, instead of having a plan that was patiently executed, the Cavs are now they're in the middle of the water and the rapids are waving around them, and they're trying to change and trying to follow a stream, but they're doing it in midstream, and it's so much harder to do that. They don't have an identity anymore. I believe they had an identity under David Blatt last year as a team that will dog you on defense while they're figuring it out on offense. They don't have an identity right now. Who are the Cavs? I'm asking you, Bruce, and I'm asking you guys out there, what is the identity of the Cavs right now? Because I feels like they lost it. They had one midway through the season. Before they fired Blatt, they were the best defensive team in the NBA. Their identity was, we will pound you defensively, and we're going to hold you under 90 points, and we're going to beat you at that part of the game. What is their identity now? What do they do now?
Here's my point. They don't even play the same offense every night. One night they play the West Coast offense where it's run and gun. Everything is run, let's run them off the floor. The next night they dribble the ball up there until it almost runs across the timeline.
See, that's what I'm saying by identity, Bruce. It's that it's not just talent. It's not like, oh, throw this whole thing out the window. It's that they don't have an identity. They're not playing together. Everybody's got different ideas of how to fix it. Sometimes it's not even a bad thing. Everybody's got different ways of trying to get it back on track, and that shows a lack of leadership. And I honestly believe that we're now seeing that the panic side of the coaching decision, that the Cavaliers made. Not anything to discredit Ty Lue as a coach. He may or may not be good. I don't know. But it appears to me that he was put in a position to be the savior here. And I don't mean the savior of the Cavs franchise. I mean the savior of this situation. The players didn't like David Blatt. They needed to do something, and it appeared that Ty Lue was that, in case of emergency, break the glass. You know what I mean?
Okay, but didn't he say in the very first press conference, we're not going to do anything different, we're going to do it better?
We're going to do it better. And that's what buries him to me, because you can't say that and then come out here and go, what is he, 10-7 since he became the coach?
Right.
Am I right about that? I don't have it right in front of me,
better.
Bruce, but I don't have it in front of me. Is he 10-7 since he took over? He's either 10-7 or 11-7. You know. But, regardless,
I mean, it's not like they're doing anything better. They're doing everything worse. I mean, they're not playing defense at all. They're dribbling. They're standing around. You know, at least with Blatt, you know, we were moving. And we were throwing the ball. It looked like one of them things at a hockey game where you needed the line to see where the ball was going.
Yes, that was, by the way, one of my favorite inventions of network hockey coverage was when they had the blue trail following the puck up. I had no problem following hockey at that point. But no, I'm with you, man. You don't need it with these guys because the ball doesn't move. It just goes into one spot and dies. And you know what? Yesterday, here's another one too. And I'm going to refer to this again weeks from now, because Lue had better call out LeBron James the same way he called out Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love yesterday. Because after the game, did you guys hear? He point blank said, our stars didn't give the effort we needed, so we took them out and brought the other guys in, specifically referring to when he took Kyrie, Love, and Tristan out with nearly 7 minutes left in the game. So I'm just saying you had better apply that same verbiage when it comes, because that's where you're going to lose all your credibility of, remember day one, I'm going to hold LeBron accountable, and I'm going to, I'm just saying that's where David Blatt lost his credibility. And I think that very quickly, that's where Ty Lue has started to see his credibility already be eroded away, because he has now several times put his foot in his mouth and said one thing and done something differently. It's like the rookie coach in baseball. You hear about rookie managers in baseball all the time that a month into the season, they'll blow out their big rah-rah speech. And then 2 months into the season, they've now given 3 big rah-rah speeches, and then they make the mistake of going to the media and putting their players on front and saying, well, I told the guys, this is a must-win game. How many times have you heard a coach panic and say, this is a must-win game, and then when the team doesn't win, where do you go from there? And you'll see coaches will blow themselves out with all of their bluster, and then the players don't change. Nothing changes. It was all just talk, but nothing changes the initial situation. And that may be what you see here, because like you said, from the day he said we're going to do things better to up to here, Ty Lue has several times now said things, and then the play on the court has shown the exact opposite of that. So here you go again with that. And I go back to J.R. Smith, and I look at what he said, and again, that's a guy that David Blatt got a heck of a lot out of. I think one of the things people talked about last year was how much, for the most part, of a professional J.R. Smith was compared to the reputation that he brought here. He had a few blow-ups, but nothing like a lot of the stuff that he did elsewhere. And I'm just saying, I think that maybe that had something to do with coming down from the top. But you look at what he said. He goes, man, we weren't executing offense. We damn sure weren't playing defense. I wasn't surprised at all when he pulled the starters because of the way they were out there performing. So, again,
I mean, they were down by 30 at one time. I mean, how do you do that?
I'm sorry?
They were down by 30 at one time.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying, man. And then you go back to the night before. You go back to giving up a 14-point lead with a couple, 7 minutes left, whatever it was. 14-point lead down the stretch against Toronto with their top guy DeRozan out with the flu or down with the flu, and you choke up the big lead, and then you miss the shot. And these are the little things that bother me about LeBron James. Now, LeBron James didn't have any problem last year in the middle of the playoffs standing in front of the media and saying, I ripped that play up. I looked at Coach Blatt and said, no way I'm not taking the last shot of this game. Yeah, and I drew up the new play. He had no problem being Mr. Alpha Male and throwing his coach under the bus. But the other night after the game, what did he say? He's going to look at the media and go, well, you know, that shot that I missed isn't the reason that we lost this game. Now, I agree.
Right.
I
and
agree.
It was an air ball.
Bro, I agree that the reason that you lost the game was not because of one play. I agree with that in general, but the exact reason that you lost was because you missed the last shot, because you took, and then he threw out the excuse that, well, there wasn't really enough time to get off the shot that I wanted to get off, and those things drive me nuts because when you make it, there was no doubt in your mind that with 1/10 of a second left, you demanded the ball. When you miss it, there's 18 excuses, and those things bother me, not because the fans see it, because the other players see it, and that erodes at his credibility as a leader. I think that is part of the problem with the chemistry on this Cavs team, and it starts at the top, and it shakes its way down, but you can't have it both ways, and in general. Now, right now, I'm hearing all over the place today, Cavs can't win without LeBron James. The Cavs have created a narrative that when they win, it's only because LeBron James carries this team to victory. And when they lose, it's because LeBron James doesn't have any help. I don't understand how a record-setting payroll can be considered not giving the man any help.
Not having help.
This is not Sasha Pavlovic. This is not Larry Hughes. This is not that 2007 Cavs team. This is the most expensive team in NBA history.
Right. Now let me ask you about the Toronto game.
Yeah.
Did Timo have any idea what he was doing? It seemed like every time he was under the hoop, okay, and then he would run out like to the foul line, and Lowry would run right by him and lay it up. It was like he was totally had no idea what he was doing.
I'm telling you, I don't think any of them do, and I'm not saying it sarcastically. They don't have an identity. The Golden State Warriors, and again, I don't like the Golden State Warriors. This pains me to say this and put them over, but they have an identity. Every single night, Draymond Green knows exactly what his role is. Steph Curry knows exactly what his role is. Andre Iguodala, and down and down and down the line. They know their style. They know the way they're going to play. They have a system. It's been in place. They continue to play it. The Cavaliers strike me as a team full of guys who wake up in the morning and go, I think I know how to fix what we're doing wrong. And then the next day, I think I know how to fix it. And they'll try something for a week, they'll try it for 2 weeks, and then they change to something else because there's no ship leading the team through. Like, there's got to be a leader. I don't care if it's the coach, LeBron, whoever you want to put it to. There's no leadership
like yesterday
at the top.
When Love
There's
and
ship without sail,
Christian ran into each other, and the other team got the ball and put it in.
Again,
you know,
they're leaderless. They're rudderless, man. They're just, if they win games, it's because they're big enough to plow down the other boats in their way, because they do have a lot of talent. The Cavaliers are the Titanic as far as the size of their ship. But guess what?
Exactly.
Without a leader, you eventually run into the iceberg that puts the hole in your boat, and then the band plays on while she looks at you and says, I'll never let go.
Yeah, but right now we don't even have a lifeboat, you know?
I know. Right now, she's already let go. We're drowned. Leonardo doesn't have a chance right now, man. How's he supposed to win another Oscar if she's going to let him go, man? Anyways, having some fun. Bruce, anything else before I go? I got to get Dan in on this.
Yeah, the Indians sold out the opener in 40 minutes.
Damn right they did. Sold out, baby. Home opener.
And, yeah, we don't look for us to buy any more free agents because, according to Antonelli, we're tapped out.
Oh, they're tapped, brother. They spent $20 million. They're good, man. They're tapped out.
So those are the two things I had on the tribe this morning. You know, I don't want to talk about Almonte. I mean, the guy said, I don't know how it got in my system.
And that's why I said what I said, Bruce, at the beginning, to clarify, because there's a lot of people that will listen to that because they don't know. And it is true. You can definitely get tainted supplements from time to time. It has been proven that some of these companies, they'll juice up their supplements, really, so that you take them. I mean, that's how you get performance. I'm not saying that they'll put pure testosterone, but they are known to. Matter of fact, the one protein company that I use just had a class action suit. They were adding creatine to their protein because creatine produces some short-term gains that would make you think that you're getting a better quality of protein shake when actually there's an ingredient in there that you didn't know you were taking, and it was illegal, and they lost a lawsuit. So that stuff does happen, and you could fail a test for something, and that's why all the sports leagues make you sign that thing that says, I'm aware that anything I put in my body is my responsibility, and I have to make sure to read the labels and all that stuff. But what Almonte got caught for is Boldenon, which is a horse. It's a veterinary steroid given to horses and race horses, and so it's not exactly the kind of thing that you stumble across and go, oh, I'm going to take some of this, you know? So
yeah, you're not going to find it at GNC, that's for sure.
That is a straight performance enhancer right there, and it's a speed drug. It's taken for guys to build their legs, to build their quads, which, think about it. We're talking about a drug that's made for racehorses. It's made to build the quads, to build those fast twitch muscles in the legs and all that stuff. So he was definitely cheating, and he definitely got caught. And I think now we know why he was so much better than advertised when he came to the Indians at the end of last season, because we were all sitting here going, man, how did this guy slip through the cracks? Yeah. He's playing great. Now we know why.
Padres hitting like this,
right?
You know?
Now we know why, because he was juicing up, which to him it was worth the risk. And guess what? If he hadn't gotten caught this time, it may have been, because he may have come out here. And let's just say, instead of getting caught in spring training, and this is why the guys, I believe, until you make it a one strike and you're out policy, this is why the guys will continue to cheat. He got caught now, but let's pretend that he went halfway through this season, or 3/4 of the way, or even all the way through a season and then got caught, but he put up numbers like he did at the end of last season. He'd go serve his 80-day suspension, and then he'd be set for a nice payday when he came back, because people would go, well, he hit this, whatever. And that's why, because you still get a good season on the books, and all of a sudden you're going to get paid. Even you'll go serve your suspension and be done. And that's why I think there's got to be a one strike. And the only thing that scares me about one strike and you're out is accidents do happen. And I would not want to see somebody lose their career if they legitimately were not cheating. But those are some rare cases. And I believe if it was one and done, you would eliminate cheating from all except the stupidest players in the world, because that's it. One time you get caught cheating and you're done. I guarantee you that would be the closest thing to eradicating steroids from professional sports as there is. You'll never get it because, again, the people will say due process and all of that stuff. But, I mean, think about it, Bruce. If I tell you that the first time you get suspended, it's 80 games. Second time, it's whatever, 150, 160, whatever it is. Third time, you're out. But you know that if you put one good season down, it could make you $10 million versus risking 80 games. I guarantee you, unless you have the highest level of integrity, you're going to strongly consider, is 80 games worth a risk of $10 million? And you may stick that needle in your butt.
Yeah, that just happened. The player for Texas that got
on
the big contract from
steroids.
the
That
Mets.
just happened. You made some money, because I'll be your agent. I'll help you avoid the drug test. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Hey, if
All
I
right,
would have
Bruce.
30 years ago, I would have did it, you know? It's like, hey.
Oh, my man, Bruce. All right, man, we went long on this bad boy. I don't care. Bruce turned into my guest in the first segment of the show. I don't care, man. That's how we roll. You call in, you never know how it's going to go. Bruce, good stuff, my man. You have a great one,
All right.
and we will talk again
Thank you,
soon.
J-Rocc.
You got it. Thank you. That was Bruce. I'm J-Rocc. This
I'm
is the
J-Rocc.
Sports Fix. And Dan Wismar is joining us next. Don't go anywhere. We've got the news coming your way, some leap year birthdays with Boomer Esiason, and then we'll be right back. Dan Wismar joins us next as we continue rolling on. We'll talk some NFL Combine, more about the Cavaliers, Indians, Buckeyes, and more. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland next here on the Sports Fix.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great!
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good,
It
though.
could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was
Get
terrible.
him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and
Pour me out. This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com. No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie split to D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans. Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
News break.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute. As this is February 29th, I won't have another chance to do today's birthday shout-outs for another 4 years. Carolina Hurricanes goalie Cam Ward is the NHL's only active leapling today. He celebrates his 8th real birthday over the past 32 years. Now, 8 other NHL players were born on this day. The most famous is 11-time Stanley Cup winner Henri Richard. Born back in 1936, the Pocket Rocket is officially 20 today. The NBA's leaper is Chucky Brown, who turns 12 years old today. The forward suited up for a dozen teams, tied for the NBA record. Happy official Sweet 16 to the Dallas Cowboys Ice Bowl era guard, John Nyland. The All-Pro from Amityville, New York, won a ring back in Super Bowl VI. And finally, this day gave us departed, but not forgotten, baseball all-stars Pepper Martin and Al Rosen. So happy Leap Day, everyone. Enjoy the day. I'm Boomer Esiason.
Hey, Sports Fix fans, I'm Fred McLeod, TV voice of the Cavaliers. When I'm not busy taking elbows from my buddy Austin Carr, I'm tuning in to see what the guys are saying on 1420 WHK.
Hold it now! Oh! Come on, come on! Huh. All right, y'all.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on. Dan Wismar is joining me on the hotline in a moment. I got some calls on the Record a Take hotline. I'm going to play those messages for you before we go off the air. Sit tight. I've got 2 of them in the queue that we'll get to here as we roll on with the show. Dan's going to join us. You guys can keep those calls coming. Record your take, not just live, but anytime when you're listening to this show on digital delay. You like what you hear, you got something to say, you want to tell me to shut up, it doesn't matter. The phones are yours anytime, 24/7. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535, the number to call. As always, social media popping off 24/7. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Twitter @The Sports Fix CLE, or myself personally @J-Rocc Daddy. Email thesportsfix@AOL.com. Instagram me @J-Rocc Daddy, guys, as we get back into it again. Phones 216-539-7535. Can't get through live. Dan Wismar is on the hotline now. I'm going to pull him up just a moment here as soon as they decide to let me. There we go. Dan, my man, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Jerry. Good to be with you.
Good to have you, as always. How have you been? It's been a week since we've talked. How's your week been?
Oh, not bad at all. Feel a little bit better. I'm a little under the weather last time we talked. By the way, I loved the bit about Maurice Richard's 20 years old and Chucky Brown is 12 today.
That's right, man.
Those guys. That was very funny. No, doing okay. Following the combine a little bit and watching my Buckeyes. Some of them are making money, some of them are losing money, but we can get to that. But interesting that you and Bruce and others on the heels of 2 Cavs losses, a little bit of a longing for David Blatt all of a sudden.
Oh, no, it's not all of a sudden. Ho. Wait a minute. All of a sudden would intimate that I was in agreement with this thing to begin with. But, yeah, absolutely. And I think anybody should. I mean, look, regardless of David Blatt, this, that, and the other thing, I mean, I think what we're seeing is that, and I think you and I talked about that from the get-go. I mean, it's like when they say you can't fire all the players. You have to shake something up somehow if you feel the need to. I mean, but I think that this spells out more than anything else that there was absolutely nothing coaching-wise that David Blatt was. I mean, maybe he could have done better, but clearly he also could have done worse, because it just appears to me that since he left, I'll go back to what I repeated several times before the break, what is the identity now, right now, of this Cavs team? Because it feels to me like half of them like the team that they were under David Blatt, that badass defensive team. Half of them want to be the Golden State Warriors, but they're not there. So they're, like I said, a raft in the middle of the rapids, and they can't decide if they want to go upstream or downstream because now you're in the middle and you're trying to figure it out as you go. But they don't. I don't know. You tell me, what is your identity of these Cavs right now as they sit?
Well, first of all, I think when we both said it on the air when David Blatt got fired, that one of the things, what you had was a bunch of superstars thrown together and trying to find that formula. And when things didn't go well, they were looking at this coach, this guy from Europe, this guy from Israel, this guy that, had never coached in the NBA before. And the firing of David Blatt, if it did nothing else, it took away the excuse. It took away the place to look and place to blame away from the players, and it just kicked that out the door and said, okay, no more of this. We won't be looking to the coach anymore when we're looking about what's wrong. Go look in the mirror, you guys, because that's where the answer lies. So, and you have to understand, too, that we took a guy that had 20-plus years of head coaching experience and put a guy in his place that had 0 years of head coaching experience. Yep. And you've got to expect that things might not go, swimmingly when you do that. So as far as the identity goes, I agree with you. I don't think they really have one. It is ironic that when you hire the defensive coach to be the head coach, your defense went to hell in a handbag.
Right.
So I have no explanation for that, and I don't profess to be smart enough to be a critique to do a critique of the X's and O's of this coach or that. But you're right. Clearly, they're foundering. And let's face it. We're 58 games in. You're 2/3 of the way through this thing, and you're in first place in your conference by a couple of games, and you've got a stretch of 4 home games coming up to sort of right the ship before you take it out on the road for 6 of the next 7, I believe. I fully expect that they'll do that. I fully expect that, Ty Lue's the same guy that was coaching the team when they went down to Oklahoma City and hammered the Thunder by 20-some points. I think LeBron will come back, and I think these guys will get their act together, and I'm not throwing up my hands in despair at this point after 2 losses in a row. But you're right. I think Lue is 10-7, 11-6, I believe it is. So I think they fired Blatt when he was 31-10. If I'm not mistaken. So, I expect that they'll turn this around. I think this is a bump in the road, not a brick wall, and we're going to go into the playoffs as the 1 seed, and we'll see what happens. We'll see in the finals if we're good enough to beat the Warriors or the Spurs, and till then, I think maybe just a tad of an overreaction here on a Monday morning.
I mean, to me, they strike me as a team that will go as far as their collective talents will take them. They'll bash these Eastern teams when they get to the playoffs. I don't worry about Toronto, like people said. Yeah, and I will say this. I was talking to some guys over the weekend. Wow, we swept Atlanta. The difference, I will say, is Atlanta didn't have anybody that's a playmaker off the ball. A lot of their stuff came off screens and getting their shooters open. Toronto does have some playmaker ability there with Lowry and DeRozan, but outside of that, I mean, I don't sit here and go, well, the Cavs are going to lose in the first round. I had a guy hit me up the other day, man, the Cavs are done in the first round in the East. I'm like, listen, the Cavs could not show up for 2 games and probably still win in the first round of the East. But it doesn't matter. Like, that talent will only push them through so far when you get to these better teams at the end. But I go back to not having an identity. And this is where I think people now talked themselves into degrading David Blatt for what he did last season in the playoffs, because you can talk about LeBron physically, I'll get it, and he did go to another level in the playoffs, but one thing that we kept saying, not just us, but the national media, everybody watching, was you really saw the shining of David Blatt in the playoffs as far as from game to game, who he took away what the teams did. Like if you were going to get beat by Jimmy Butler in game 1, you could bet that Jimmy Butler wasn't doing anything in game 2 because he was going to change the defensive scheme, and that was something that I think really showed itself in the playoffs there. That was an identity. You knew that the Cavs were going to bring a hard hat to lunch, and you knew that they were going to try to hold you under 90 points, and if they could do that, it didn't matter how many points they scored because they were going to win 9 out of every 10 games playing that way. These guys, the only identity I feel from them is we're just going to throw this talent out on the floor and try to beat you upside the head with the bigger bat.
Yeah, that may be true, and I do not disagree at all that David Blatt is looking a little bit better in the rearview mirror. Certainly, and 20-plus years of experience, I think they sort of discounted that. I still think that maybe we haven't heard the whole story, Gary, about David Blatt and the problems of the clubhouse and the feeling on the team that there was no joy in winning and going 31-10 out of the gate. But still, like you say, we saw in the playoffs that he can adjust and that he did adjust, and he swept 2 teams in the playoffs that were supposed to give him some problems. And after going down a game to the Bulls, came back strong and trounced them pretty handily. So, and was up 2-1 in the finals. So, yeah, this is a guy that knew what he was doing, and whatever the reasons for getting rid of him, we're now seeing that there's a downside to that too. And it seems like a no-brainer that 20-plus years of head coaching experience down to 0, you're going to have a downside to that.
And where that, I think, bothers me the most is when we get to the most important part of this season, which is in the playoffs. And we'll see. Look, like you said, I still think that the Cavs, to me, I don't see a team in the East that in the playoffs beats them in a 7-game series, and I'm including Toronto in that. I just don't. I don't think they have the collective talent to do it. I think that when you get to Game 6s and Game 7s against a team, the Cavs' talent will beat their way through the East. But you look over at the West, and again, I don't think the Cavaliers, as they're playing right now defensively, I don't think the Cavs could win the 2 games that they won last year against Golden State simply because Golden State has not skipped a beat. Whether you like them or not, they had a system in place. It's built several years now. They took what they did last year, and they've just continued, and they're doing some unheard of things. And, guys, again, it makes my stomach churn to say that because these guys, I'm not a fan of the Warriors and Steph Curry, but how can you not be at times appreciative of what the hell they have clinched a playoff spot? They practically had the playoffs clinched before Martin Luther King's birthday, man. I mean, come on, man. These guys are unreal.
Yeah, and they've yet to lose a home game, as have the Spurs.
Right, and I hadn't even touched on the Spurs. Like
right. 52-0 at home or something, as I just looked at it. And speaking of Ty Lue, he's lost more home games, which is to say 3, in his first 18 games. 17 games than David Blatt lost in his first 42, so 41. So that's he's dropped 3 home games already in his just his first 16 games as head coach. So that home court magic for the Cavs isn't quite what it was over the last season and a half either. But in any event, yeah, I think you're right that certainly Golden State has not looked back and they want to prove it's no fluke. And right now they're one of the best teams on paper that the NBA has ever seen. So you got to tip your hat to them, no matter how much you might not like, Steph Curry being the face of the NBA.
And I wish that whatever it is, I don't care what it is. If you decide we're going to be the highest scoring team in the NBA, if you decide we're going to hold every team under 90 points, whatever it is, I just would love to see the Cavs pick it and say we've got 40 games, whatever, however many games left to play, 30 some games, 20 games, whatever it is left in the run. This is who we're gonna be, and we're gonna just do this every night. We're gonna get ourselves in playoff mode because here's my thing is they don't feel to me like the team that knows what they're going to do once they hit the playoffs, and then it'll be a different story. Like you always talk about that switch that you can flip, but that's part of having an identity, and then you can kind of meander away from it during the regular season, but here's what we're going to do. And very well they may do that again come playoff time, but it feels like right now that you're almost waiting until playoff time to even flip that switch and say, okay, now we're going to start. You can do the whole it's a long season and it's another regular season game. You can only do that for so long. It eventually does become a short season, and they do become more important games as you hit the playoffs. So that's part of it. Is I fear that somewhere these guys are just waiting to flip that magical switch, and I wish that they would decide, okay, this is the way we're going to play the rest of the season, and then head that direction and give yourselves a 3 or 4 week run into the playoffs of getting some good cohesion going together, because they just feel like a team that knows they're going to walk through the East, and they know that they can turn that switch on come playoff time. And how many times have we seen teams do that, and it works most of the time, and then one day they go to flip the switch and nothing happens, and they, what the hell? And that team that had the switch flipped since April is the one that runs past you, and that's what I worry about happening to the Cavs. Is they take for granted that that's just going to be automatic in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. And so often what you see is the team that is hot down the stretch. Obviously, is a team that goes into the playoffs on a roll, and what you don't want to do is cruise into the playoffs on cruise control or a little bit too full of yourself and run up against a buzzsaw in the first or second round of a team that came in hot, especially a team maybe to just grab hold of the 8th seed by playing great down the stretch or whatever. And of course, you go into the playoffs too when the half court game and the defensive game in the half court becomes more important, and teams again, as you get more familiar over the course of a 7-game series with an opponent, you're not going to be able to get the easy stuff, and you're going to have to grind it out and be a team that's fundamentally sound and playing great defense. I'm still waiting to see the defensive genius of Tyronn Lue. I mean, I think we all are. I think your point was well made, too, when you were talking with Bruce about, familiarity breeds contempt, about hiring the guy who's your buddy, and all of a sudden he's your boss, and you can't be his buddy anymore. Right. He can't be your buddy. And that really is something that maybe we're seeing here. And again, it goes back to, okay, no more excuses. You can't look funny at the guy that came over from Europe and maybe isn't getting the respect of the officials around the league, and maybe doesn't have the respect of the superstars making 10, 12, 15, $18 million a year. And he's the easy scapegoat when things don't go well. And what David Griffin did was get rid of that. No more of that. No more of that, handy, convenient scapegoat guy over there that you can look at and blame your troubles on. So I hope that this team right now, today, before tonight's game, takes a look in the mirror and says, okay, it wasn't David Blatt, it ain't Ty Lue, it's us, and we got to get it together.
That's right. Get it together. Get out there and make this thing happen. We'll see. Still a lot to play. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I just worry about the end result. Again, it's not about winning a division. It's not about winning a conference. They've already done all that. It's about going the next step past there. We'll see what they do here as they keep bouncing back, man. I'm not trying to be that. Oh well, I just hate LeBron. I mean, I think we've been more than fair with all this, and it is a mid-season reaction to things. But even talking about, by the way, teams that get hot, you see that all the time in the NFL. Now the difference is that they have a 7-game series, and a lot of times talent wins out over the course of a series rather than a one and done situation. But still, like you said, that team that's been playing, they can't lose a game. Because a lot of times in the NBA, I mean, this isn't a matter of, like in the NFL, you win a game in the last week and another team loses and you back into that playoff spot. But a lot of times to chase down that 8th seed in the NBA, you've got to have been playing pretty hot, unless it's one of those years where just somebody backs into it. Usually you've got to have been playing pretty hot for the last couple, 3-4 weeks of the season to not only get the spot, but then hold on to it from whoever's battling around you, and that kind of has you a little bit sharper. So again, talent wins out in longer series, and that's why I just think not even Toronto is going to win more than a couple of games in a 7-game series with the Cavs. But that, again, that's the East that we're talking about. To me, the best couple of teams. And everybody's on the Warriors. The Spurs was my preseason pick to win the West. As great as the Spurs or the Warriors have been playing, what are the Spurs? 2-3 games lower than the Warriors, but it's the Warriors are so hot that the Spurs are just laying under the radar, but they're on a record-setting pace too.
Yeah, they are 28-0 at home. I think the Warriors are only 24-0 at home, so San Antonio really has an even better home record than the Warriors do. And yeah, you're right. They're flying under the radar right now, and I'm sure they like it just fine right there.
You got to think that. They're sitting there going, wow, look at this season we're having. Nobody's talking about the Spurs. Tim Duncan's licking his chops and resting up for the playoffs right now, man. That's going to be interesting to see, which not to discredit the Cavs in the East, but to see which of those teams comes out of the West. Just those two, let alone who might, battle from the middle of the pack. But, man, just from those two teams alone, who's going to win in the West? Who's going to come out of that?
Yeah, that is true. That could be viewed very, very rightly as the legitimate NBA Finals. I honestly don't think that either the Clippers or the Thunder have what it takes to hang with either of those two teams. I think that's been shown when they've gone head-to-head. The Clippers beat them once, but it looks like those two guys and then everybody else. And that Western Final is people could maybe legitimately look at that as the best two teams playing off.
Man, as it sits now, and this is just fun talk, but who would you give a 7-game series? Who would you have? Because I got to tell you, man, I'm such a fan of the Spurs that I would call the upset. I think the Spurs could beat the Warriors, but how? You got to go back 2 years to find 7 losses for the Warriors. So I don't know who's going to knock them out in a series, but. They haven't even lost. They haven't lost a series yet this season. When you add it up, they're just now getting eliminated.
Yeah, certainly Kawhi Leonard coming into his own and Aldridge joining that team makes them formidable. But I tell you what, I've seen the Spurs play a few times this year when they've looked just flat awful.
The one against the Cavs,
and when Ginobili and Parker and Duncan, the big three, just don't look like they've got it. And if Aldridge has a bad shooting night, they can look terrible. I remember just after they beat the Cavs this year, we went down there and got beat. We beat them up here, but just after they beat the Cavs and looked great doing it, they went on the road, and I think I saw them play at Golden State, and they just got drilled.
Yeah, they
Golden
did.
State just took it to them 20, 30 points or something. And it just wasn't the same team, and I don't think they just came out and did not play as well as they played against the Cavs. It wasn't anything magical that the Warriors did to them. But I think the Warriors were intent on delivering a message that night, and they did it and beat them up pretty good. So until proven otherwise, I've got to take the Warriors in that series.
And I hear you, because Tony Parker, I love Tony Parker, but man, in a 7-game series, you got to think he would get worn down trying to keep up with Curry over the course. I could definitely see him playing him to a draw in the first couple of games, because that's a smart team, and Tony Parker's a very smart veteran player. As Charles said in the chat room, Popovich would game plan some stuff, but you got to think that that's the X factor there, because inside, the Spurs, I think the Spurs clearly have an advantage there over anybody they play. When you look at, just that combination, when you got Duncan and then Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge and David West, those 4 alone is a hell of a combination there to throw at teams, But Patty Mills defensively, Tony Parker, I don't know how through the lengthy part of that series you just keep up with Curry, because as we've seen, even the Cavs saw it. He'll have a bad couple of games, but he will get loose eventually. You can't keep him down for a whole series. I think the Cavs probably did better than almost anybody else in the playoffs of taking him out of the game for the first half of a series.
Yeah, that's true, and I think even those of us that don't like the team or the guy, you've got to admit that this is the best shooter that the NBA's seen in a long, long time, probably since Larry Bird, maybe even Jerry West or somebody like that, in terms of just pure shooting the ball, the best we've seen. Young people, the best they've seen in their lifetime.
Seriously, tell me, he's like Larry Bird. He's that guy. and I dare anybody to give me a different name. If I told you right now your career's on the line, you got to pick one person to shoot the last shot for you. There's not anybody that doesn't pick Steph Curry right now in the NBA. I mean, if I've got one shot to live or die, I'm giving it to him with his stupid mouthpiece, and I'm going to let him go knock it down because that's all he does is make shots.
Yeah, no doubt. And the big slap I'm sure you heard this week, Oscar Robertson saying, why don't they go out on him? Go out and guard him at the 3-point line or 3 feet outside the 3-point line. And then, of course, most of the people that are observers of today's NBA came back and said, hey, Oscar, you're great, one of the greatest ever, but you're just flat wrong about this because Steph Curry goes right by you. He's not a standstill shooter. He'll go right by you, or you'll have 2 or 3 other guys go into the hoop, and Steph Curry's going to find him. Come out on him and get up in his face, and he will be by you in a heartbeat, dishing it off to one of 3 or 4 other guys for a dunk. And so the idea that you're just going to go out on him and play him outside and play him up close, sorry, nice theory, but it doesn't work.
Just a kid from Akron, Dan. Just a kid from Akron, man. This is it's a fun season. We still got a couple more months to go till they hit the playoffs. We'll see, man. We'll see what the Cavaliers do here. Obviously, on the back end, we're speculating, but the Cavs have to get there first. They've still got some work to do, and they'll pick back up on that. Let's get rolling here. We're back, by the way. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. If you're just tuning in, I'm J-Rocc. That's Dan Wismar, and you're with us here live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Hit us up, Facebook.com/The Sports Fix, Twitter @The Sports Fix CLE, email thesportsfix@AOL.com. Your thoughts on the Cavs. And as we switch topics here, I don't know where you want to go now. Let's talk about your boy, Babraham Almonte, seeing as how you coined the phrase. He was not powered on hot dogs and beer, apparently. He was powered on something a bit more powerful.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of pop out of the bat of Almonte last year, and now we know where it came from. The next thing I learn about Boldenol or whatever that drug was, it'll be the first thing that I know. But you apparently are familiar with it and know quite a bit more about it than I do, which is to say,
damn it, how did I become that guy? Every time we start talking about PEDs, I go, well, I happen to know a little bit about this. It's the world that I live in.
You're my go-to guy on PEDs here.
Unfortunately.
Again, just a dumb move by a kid who had a chance to be a Major League Baseball player and a regular and a starter on a big league team, and he blew it. I don't know what more there really is to say about it other than who's up next, Colin Cowgill or Joey Butler or James Ramsey or Walters or somebody going to have to come up in the spring and show they want to be a player. It seems like the Indians have a whole bunch of 4A outfielders, though.
Yep.
I don't know that they really believe in either Ramsey or Walters, and we'll see what Joey Butler looks like, and I have no idea what Colin Cowgill looks like. But that's the motley crew that we're picking from. After you've got to assume Roger Davis is a starter, and like it or not, Lonnie Chiz is your right fielder, at least against right-handed pitching. So. Francona says he's what's he going to say? I'm unhappy with the choices I have that the general manager has given me to play the outfield, but he says he's comfortable with the guys in camp, and so it looks like they're going to go sign who's the other kid, the center fielder, Austin Jackson, anytime soon. So see what we got, but Almonte really blew his shot.
Oh, he absolutely did. And yeah, as I was saying before, that's one of the ones that you can't say you accidentally got. It is a matter of fact, right. I just for the hell of it, I pulled up the Wikipedia as you were talking, and it's literally listed as a veterinary steroid specifically for racehorses. And so there you go. And as a matter of fact, that's the same, and I didn't know this, but that's the same thing that the pitcher for the Mets that was just suspended.
Reyes?
Is that who it was?
I can't think of the name either, Jerry, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, Meja, the guy that just got suspended from the Mets. It was the same thing that he got nailed for. It's one of the ones that you can't deny. And so anyways, but yeah, it's a shame because, and the best part for him is that he can't even hide from it. He's still a part of spring training, so he's going to be out there every day facing the funk on this one here, but then he'll be gone come the beginning of the season. A lot of guys, as you said, they got a ton of guys. Naquin's name came back in there. A lot of people wanted that to be the trigger for Austin Jackson, but as we mentioned, our Indians say, no, we've spent what we're going to spend here. So, it's a shame because that was somebody, like you said, that both of us were really interested in, and he clearly had the opening shot at things at least. But it's a shame. It's just funny because you sit there, and this is one of the things I was telling my son, little Jerry, this when we were talking about it. I said, it's stuff like this is the reason why you can never trust. Because, matter of fact, over the weekend, I have the Game of Shadows, and then I picked up League of Denial over the weekend. I don't know if you've had a chance to read that one yet. That one is like Game of Shadows was about the steroids. League of Denial is about the NFL with the concussions and steroids and different things. It's by the same guy who wrote Game of Shadows. And I was showing my son the one. I said, brother, you read this and you'll never trust another athlete again. I don't care if they're drug tested or not, because you realize just how deep the cheat really goes at this stuff, man. And because it does. It goes very, very deep. And I was laughing with him. I said, you'll never, ever have faith in any of these guys again that they're not saucing themselves up somehow when you read how deep they go and how when you're drug testing yourself every day to make sure that you can pass the drug test. That's a level of cheating that goes far beyond just trying to put a little snot on the ball when you lose a few miles on your fastball. Yeah, and Jerry, it's really too bad that you have to tell your son those things at his tender age. Because sort of like the end of the innocence, Absolutely, absolutely. You'd like to let him just have some pure belief for a while before he turns into the cynic that the game has turned us into, But like you say, teach him the facts early, I guess. But it is sad that he got to sort of get his baptism into the cheating at this early age. Especially when you think about, and I go back to what I said, by the way. I'm laughing because Ron Graham's running the Twitter, and see, for those of you that listen live, maybe you're not social media people. I laugh because when you take what we say as we're saying it, it's a conversation. When you pull out 140 character blurbs of what we say, sometimes they just come across either not the way they were said or just funny. And he tweeted out, I've noticed that, but Ron does a good job. I'm not going to be critical of him, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes you pull those quotes out to get them into 140 characters, and it's not quite like it came out of our mouth. Exactly, and he just quoted me as saying, "How did I become that guy?" Every time we talk about steroids, I'm the one that knows about it. But in-house expert, I guess, man. But hey, I will say, that's the downside of. The ugly side of some parts of professional wrestling, especially it's not as prevalent. Well, yeah, it is. They just find better ways to get away with it. But anyways, I'm surrounded by guys that have been juiced up for years. So, I have the advantage of if a guy comes in a room, I can literally look at him. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but most of the time I can tell if a guy's on something just by looking at him, not because of his muscles. That's what people think the giveaway is. But you look at the head, you look at the way the shape of the head, you look at there's certain Adam's apple, there's certain parts that hardened and changed their shape where you can just look at a guy and go, oh yeah, man, that guy's on something for sure. And it's a shame, but it is today's sport. I don't trust any of these cats not to be on something, and that just goes to show you why. The good news, Jerry, is we're playing a ball game tomorrow, and that is then every day from there on out we'll be playing a baseball game. And we got the Cowboy on the hill tomorrow. Am I right? Tomlin supposed to start against the Reds tomorrow. Music, yes, and music to my ears. I was driving around yesterday, I don't know, sometime over the weekend, and I heard Hammy on a commercial come on TAM and say, hey, first game of the season, Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. And I just got cold chills. I'm like, hell yeah, we're playing some baseball again, baby.
Yeah, that's right. And I understand they sold out the opener. I wonder if the front office has realized yet that there's 80 other games after that that they need to sell tickets for it. Apparently not, but that's all right. That's just my pet peeve. Anyway, glad to hear. I got my seats for the opener. Going to be down there on the 4th of April, so I'll be in that crazy crowd on the 4th.
And now the march begins to see the squad that's going to get there. And, I mean, we kind of started going that way with the outfielders here. But, this is the team, barring any trades or any kind of changes or whatever, this is the team that's going to start. And that's where the games start to be fun. The first few, obviously you warm up into it. But we'll start to see in the outfield where they're going to go. Uribe reports to camp after a little bit of a delay. So, wasn't sure if he'd be able to get in there as quickly as he has, but just a couple of day delay, and then we get to see him in there. And we talked a little bit about that last week. Who was it I saw? Was it Terry Pluto that did an article this week on why that signing makes sense? And it was a lot of the same stuff that we talked about. Bruce in the chat room, 9,000 or bust. That's the Indians. That's the Indian
right.
slogan when it comes to the attendance this year. But anyways, I was reading Pluto's, it was Zach Meisel that wrote it about why the signing of Uribe makes sense for the Indians. But no, we'll get a chance to start seeing him out there, and I do. I like that, and I don't know. I'm just curious, man. We talked. I'm going to get Mike in on this next week when I get him in on the show. But where are you especially with everything? I mean, what are you looking to see the most? I guess answered in the next couple of weeks here.
I want to see, first of all, one or more of our quad A outfielders hit the ball. You assume that they all are defensively solid. Okay, Cowgill's supposed to be a good outfielder. We know that Naquin has maybe the best arm of any of them. I'm kind of hoping for Naquin to show me something. Even if he does this spring, I kind of doubt he'd break camp with the team. He'd probably be on a Lindor type of schedule. Go down there to Columbus and tear the cover off the ball for a couple months and we'll talk, that kind of a thing. But I'm looking for one of those guys, whether it be Walters, whether it be Ramsey, whether it be Cowgill or someone to have a big spring to show that they can compete. The other thing is, of course, you want to see Brantley, and I don't know if Brantley will be playing in any games. I kind of assume that he won't, but he thinks he's at least ahead of schedule. People are still going on this, well, he'll probably be out a month. Well, Michael Brantley doesn't say that. Michael Brantley says, I'm shooting for opening day. He is, they say, ahead of his rehab schedule. He's throwing from the outfield. Of course, it was his right shoulder, not his throwing shoulder that was injured. So you'd think that hitting with the right shoulder and being the front shoulder and the power shoulder that he would be, that would be the only area he would be limited in. But can he get into some games late in spring? Can he realistically be looked at as a guy who's only going to miss, a week or two of the season, or maybe even be ready to go opening day? I mean, he's just such a big part of this offense that, he's just that important. And obviously I'm not going to rush it, but to see how he progresses over the next month is maybe a really big key to the season for the whole team.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And I definitely think that even with Aaron on the side of caution, that we may see him sooner than later. And there's so many question marks, man. And even, to be honest with you, spring training answers some questions. But I think as we've seen, especially with Terry Francona being the manager of the Cleveland Indians, the squad that breaks camp means, I think, even less than you used to give credit for. I mean, this is just
that's true. I mean, you look at last year, Danny Salazar got sent down,
right?
Early on, and by the end of the year, he was a top starter, top 30 starter in the American League. So, a lot happens over the course of a 6-month season. But that, and of course, Jerry, the bullpen, how that shakes out, and like you say, doesn't really matter who's on that 8-man bullpen when we break camp. 4 or 5 of those things are set in stone, but the other 4 or 5 might be pretty loose, pretty flexible, and to me, who's going to make the team throwing from the left side is the really big question mark out there. You've got 4 or 5 right-handers that are pretty much locks if you count Manship as a lock, and Shaw, Allen, and McAllister. So it's really the left-handed guys that are the question marks. And starting, who's going to be the fifth starter? Is it going to be Tomlin? Is it going to be Cody Anderson? DJ House maybe gets a look, but not too many questions on the rest of that 25-man roster, actually.
Brother, we talk about overanalyzing things like the combine. I love spring training because now we get to spend the next 4 weeks overanalyzing these games that don't mean anything. What do you think, Dan? Colin Cowgill went 9 for 10.
472.
He went 9 for 10 last week with 3 home runs. What do you think? This dude's gonna be the MVP this season, man, and all kinds of conversations like that coming up, man. So
we love it. We love it.
You know it, man, but that's the fun part of it. And then I always love that because only in baseball, like not only do you, in April and May everything doesn't count because it's a long season, but it actually starts. Well, it's February. It's just spring training. It doesn't count yet. It doesn't start counting in baseball till September, man. They play for. It's like the NBA. We're turning into a world where nothing counts until the playoffs, man. Like we've just got the world's most overpriced regular season exhibition games in sports because we're just getting ready to begin it. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Oh, it's just spring training, and then it's just March, man. The season just started. It's just April,
Yeah.
It's just May.
One thing the Indians need to remember this year is that the games in April count as much as the games in September.
Can't say that enough. Yeah. No, go ahead, man. I'm with you.
No, that's really all there is. I mean, the slow starts have killed them the last couple of seasons, and you've got to come out of the gate because that loss in April is just as important as the loss in September.
Sure is, man. I mean, really, that's the key. I think if they get themselves out to a good start, that not only is that obviously good for the natural reasons, but the way the team has played second halves of seasons, they know that they're going to get better as the season goes on, as at least they have for 3 years in a row now. So if you come out with a hot start, you do a good April and May, if you're the players on the Indians, you're going, hey, we know we're going to get better in the second half of the season. So if you start off well, then that really gives you confidence that this could be a special season and not just a season. That start lets you know that you could be. It gets the ball rolling in the right direction. I mean, it sounds dumb that we're figuring ways to explain why winning more games early matters, but those are all different reasons.
Yeah, no doubt, and it would help a lot if they could put 20,000 people in the chairs to watch them play those April games, but I don't want to go down that road.
Let's not. Dan Wismar.
You'd think that the club would be doing everything they can to have some promotions in April. It's freezing. You need promotions to bring people out, and a bigger crowd. I've got to believe that the team would play better with a bigger crowd there.
Well, we know that. I mean, I think, and that's part of it too, man. Get some momentum rolling, get some feel good going, and once again, they'll have an opportunity. I don't know how big of one, depends on how the Cavs pull things together, but you'll have that opportunity there to. And there's another thing, man. You're going to have the playoff run going for 2 months. Imagine if when the buzz ends, whether we got a parade on Euclid, whether they win, lose in the East, whatever the Cavs do, imagine if when that 2-month playoff fog lifts, instead of what we've been talking about, what we're usually talking about is, if you could just get back to 500 before the playoffs are over, you get the benefit of the fans not noticing the bad starts. Well, same thing there, man. Imagine if you get some momentum going, Indians, and then that playoff run clears for the Cavs and people go, hey, what's going on? Oh, damn, the Indians are 30-15 or whatever. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, boom, it just lends itself to a hell of a summer downtown.
That's true, and even during the playoffs, if the Indians are hot, across on the inner side of Eagle Avenue, if you can, get a bunch of people downtown and get the whole city into a sports frenzy, obviously that would help the city, and the two teams can play off each other.
For sure, man. Dan Wismar, J-Rocc doing the thing, talking about a little bit of everything. Let's finish with some football. We were teasing that earlier, talking about the Combine and some of the Buckeyes. I talked about Joey Bosa, so we'll start there. I talked about him earlier because you listen to some people, and because he was 0.2 of a second slower on his 40, the sky has indeed fallen. I am not one of those people. I was saying, I don't know if you've seen, but there's been comparisons. It's almost identical. Joey Bosa's combine numbers and J.J. Watt when he came out in 2011. Bosa's 40 was 4.86. J.J. Watt's was 4.84. The 20-yard shuttle was dead heat at 4.21 seconds, and the 3-cone drill was almost identical, 6.89 for Bosa, 6.88 for J.J. Watt. I mean, those are the key ones at that position. I mean, so, and plus we saw him play on the field. I go back to what I said when I was flipping through the dials, and I heard some doofus on the radio say, hey, we're going to forget that they played football, and we're just going to judge what they did at the Combine. And I'm like, well, what are we, just going to be a bunch of idiots then? Because that is so overrated, and we're just going to forget what guys did when they were actually playing football. But do you think Joey Bosa hurt himself at all? I don't.
No, I really don't at all. And first of all, 6'6", 260, whatever. I mean, I know J.J. Watt right now is about 20 pounds heavier than Joey Bosa is at this moment, but he's packed on some weight since he ran a few years ago. No, I don't think Bosa hurt himself one bit. And I think, as soon as you look at how he was double and triple teamed this year, and they say some of his numbers were down this year, but, when he ran a 4.8 something, at 6'6", 260 with his athletic ability, and this is a guy who, when he was in high school, there's still a YouTube video of him doing a standing backflip at 6'6", 260, and landing on his feet. You show me another human being that can do that at that size. He's still an athletic freak. The only problem from a say a Cleveland Browns standpoint is he doesn't necessarily translate to a 3-4 defensive end. He's more of a 4-3 defensive end, and that's why he might not be a guy that the Browns would seriously look at it too. But I don't, no way Joey Bosa drops out of the top 5. No matter what he does at Indianapolis.
Right, because you would think for what Ray Horton's going to run with the Browns this year, Bosa would be more probably an outside linebacker.
Right, and I don't think you're going to have a successful transition to outside linebacker with Joey Bosa.
I don't like that, period. I've never been a fan of drafting a guy who plays one position specifically to turn him into something else, man. I mean...
Yeah, it's a gamble, especially, you want to do that with a 7th-round draft pick, okay. You don't want to do it with the 2nd pick in the draft. And,
exactly, that's what I mean.
I just don't see that happening. But, Bosa's going to be fine. He's going to be a star in the NFL, and some team's going to be awful happy they drafted him.
I'll tell you what. Talk about covering these guys too much. By the way, I don't want to go too deep into it, but there was a lot of love or lack thereof, laughter on Twitter about dressing these cats up in their skivvies so tight that sometimes they can't even contain everything. Did you see the cat who showed himself to the world on the NFL Network biblically?
No, I missed that.
Yes.
Who was it?
He was a defensive guy. He was literally running and came out of his shorts because they were so tight that literally, like I said, everything that he had was no longer left to the imagination. And it was they had to cut away on TV from it, but there's vines and screenshots and all that stuff going on. But let's just say that gentleman won't have trouble getting a date after the NFL Combine. So if nothing else...
I see. Well, good for him.
If nothing else, he's got some things.
I just wanted to make sure and mention some of the Buckeyes. Talk about a guy that made a little
Let's
bit of
talk
money,
about it, yeah.
This weekend, Darren Lee made some money.
Darren Lee, yes.
Darren Lee runs a 4.43 40. He's a 230-pound linebacker. I read somewhere this morning it's the fastest linebacker 40-yard dash in 9 years. He was already considered, late first round. He just jumped up into Ryan Shazier territory, I think. Ryan Shazier actually ran a 4.38, but that was at OSU Pro Day when they were running on a little bit faster track. But a 4.43 for Darren Lee is an eye opener. So is 232 pounds, by the way, because he was listed at 225, and people were hoping that he could put on a little bit of weight.
Did you see his explosive numbers though? He did the
35-inch vertical.
Yeah. 11 foot.
Yeah, he long jumped 11 feet.
11 foot on the long jump. Yeah, so he's got some athleticism for sure. Explosiveness.
No doubt. Yeah, and so he moved up probably to middle first round, probably in the mid-teens, not even higher. Of course, Zeke Elliott ran a 4.47 too, and he is. I think he's top 10. I would be surprised if Zeke Elliott makes it out of the top 10. The guy maybe of the Buckeyes, and the other one too, that has really helped himself with speed is Josh Perry. NFL people like the fact that he's 254 pounds. He's 6'3", 6'4", and he ran something like, I think, the third fastest 40 among all the NFL linebackers at his weight. I think he ran a 4.58 or something like that, 4.54, really, really fast for a guy that big at the linebacker spot. So people are starting to fall in love with Josh Perry too, and I don't know if that means round 2 or round 3 for him or what, but he's been very impressive. A guy that may have hurt himself by coming out early. Really, the only one you can look at and say, "Hey, man, you should have stayed," is Jalen Marshall, because Jalen Marshall ran a 4.6 and at 5'10". He's a strong kid, and he might make some team as a late round pick and return punts for him and play in the slot. But he would have been a featured player in Columbus next year if he'd stayed, and he may be one guy who's regretting his decision.
I'll tell you what, while we're talking about Buckeyes at the Combine, let's talk a little bit about Cardale Jones, because I'll tell you what, not only, is it never good to come up lame, but I think that, there were already so many question marks around him, especially when you look at, the buzz, should he come out after the first year, and then everything last year, and kind of coming back down to earth, and then he hurts the hamstring, and I'm not, obviously, anybody can get hurt on any given day, but he's a big guy. And a lot of times those guys with that size, especially when you got those highly developed quads and legs, and sometimes those things are repetitive. And that's something that you worry about, coming up lame for something that especially when you realize that these guys trained and prepared for that. That kind of gives you some concerns, on top of the fact that it leaves you now with a bunch more question marks coming out as far as where do we put this guy on our draft board if you're NFL scouts.
Yeah, that's true. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry. You heard hamstring, because I heard ankle. I just saw that probably on a tweet by somebody, and I had no
I heard it was a hamstring,
basis for it. But I had heard that it was an ankle sprain or twist that laid him up, and he decided then not to throw. I also remember hearing over the weekend that George Whitfield, who's, of course, the big quarterback guru that works with all these guys out in California and trains quarterbacks as a private tutor, says that he said, "I've been doing this kind of work for a long, long time." He said, "I have never seen an arm like Cardale Jones. I've never seen a guy that has that much pure arm strength in my life, in all the time he's been doing the work that he's done with quarterbacks." So somebody's going to take a shot on Cardale, and Cardale will have OSU Pro Day is it's going to be Combine 2, by the way. When you get to OSU Pro Day, we'll probably have 20 guys.
Right, because they got 2 dozen.
the 14 that went to the Combine, and I imagine guys like Noah
it's going to be
like come back and
I can see it now. The coverage of the Ohio State Combine,
Right. Certainly every NFL team will be there. It'll be a little bit faster track for the 40 runners, not as fast as it was a few years ago, because they're on a different kind of turf now, and it's not quite as fast as the old AstroTurf was. But you can bet that Cardale will be there, and he'll be ready to throw, and he'll be ready to run, 2 weeks from now. And, I don't know. I'm going to have to check after we talk here about whether that was a hamstring or what that was at Cardale. But the initial report I heard was an ankle. But
see, I saw a hamstring
you wouldn't
several
think
places.
Would be as much of a concern as a hamstring. But
see, that's
what's ready there on the 11th, and these teams will be able to see him, and maybe he'll get down on his knees and throw the ball through the uprights from the 50-yard line. like he's done before and just show off a little bit. But,
right, it's not like he can't do it. You know what? You hit the point on the head, too. I heard hamstring from 3 or 4 different sources. NFL.com reported it as a hamstring, several other places. So you hit it on the head. Ankle is a temporary injury that goes away. Hamstring leaves people going, man, I hope that's not a recurring type. Because, muscles tend to do the same thing a lot of times if they fail in a certain way.
I think, too, that the NFL scouts will pop in the video of Alabama and Oregon a year ago.
And they'll look past the hamstring, brother.
Cardale, and they will not be overly concerned about Cardale's durability as an NFL QB at 6'5", 250.
No, and like you said, with that arm strength, look, I don't know what the Browns' intentions are, and we can start talking about that in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the quarterbacks at the Combine anyway, but I stick with my guns that if you can get a Cardale Jones 4th, 5th round in the draft, do it and see what the hell you got with the guy. I'm just not a big fan of going round 3 or higher for the guy. But, man, what do you think coming out of the I guess, like you said, it's going to really depend on the pro day because then he can launch himself right back up the boards with a hot pro day as we've seen so many people do. So I guess that depends. But I saw a lot of people, at least if we're just going off the Combine, saying, 3rd, 4th round for Cardale Jones, but I mean nobody saw anything. That would definitely to me be an ideal scenario way to get a guy like that. What do you think? Looking at these guys at the Combine, these quarterbacks went out there and look at how some of them did, Goff and Cook and some of these other guys. What do you think the Browns are thinking early on in this thing, man? Do you think? I mean, we heard from Sashi Brown last week, heard from Hugh Jackson. Which way does your gut tell you these guys are leaning? Are they going to go find an NFL veteran guy to be the guy? Or are they going to stick with a Josh McCown? Or are they going to draft somebody and say, "Let's go, kid, let's go to work"?
Well, I think Sashi gave you a little bit of a clue last week when he said that Josh McCown gives us the luxury of not having to draft a guy that we think can play day one. If we draft a guy that we think is a quote-unquote project, and I'm paraphrasing him here, that's okay because we don't have to. We don't feel pressure to draft a guy that we know can start game one because McCown gives us that flexibility.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be frankly, I would be surprised if McCown is the starter week 1 next year. But at least they're saying that right now. That he gives them the flexibility to draft a guy and he doesn't have to be ready week 1 because that's presumably the conventional wisdom in the NFL that if you draft a franchise quarterback that he should watch for a while and put on the baseball cap and get on the headphones and learn from a veteran for at least a while. I've also seen wildly varying opinions on guys like Carson Wentz. You see, some guys like Mike Mayock and these guys have him legitimately listed as one of the top 5 players in the draft, and others that have him, well down into the mid to late first round in terms of rating players overall. I think the Browns know, like everybody and their brother knows, that the Browns are going nowhere till they address the quarterback situation and get that handled. There will be tremendous pressure on them to, take the best player available, and as I mentioned just briefly last week, with their analytics department to rank these players. If they take a QB, they're going to have to stand in front of the media and say, we took this guy number 2 because we feel he's the second best player in the draft or the best. And I think if it's Carson Wentz or Jared Goff, that's going to be a hard sell to people who are aware of everybody's rankings of players, 1 through 32 or whatever. It's going to be very interesting, but I think the pressure is also tremendous on Hugh Jackson and on this club to satisfy the fans by drafting. I just don't think they can sit there and wait till 32 and see the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the draft go off the board by then and leave them with the 3rd or 4th or 5th best guy at pick 32. And I know they're going to take a quarterback at either 2 or 32. I mean, I think that's probably the worst kept secret in the NFL right now, that the Browns are going QB with one of those 2 picks. But I think Wentz and Goff and maybe even Lynch, maybe even Connor Cook will be gone by the time they get to 32. At least two of those. Three of those four will probably be gone.
I agree with you, and I think there's a happy medium. And I think that, I mean, obviously, we've got pro days and all of these other things, you know, that'll still be variables in this. But when you're looking at the quarterbacks, because you know, the top two, to me, you're talking about Wentz, you're talking about Goff. You've got a couple of guys up there. I see a scenario. I just don't see the Browns looking to take either of those guys at 2. But obviously, like you said, you can't go 32 and then 4 guys are off the board, and all of a sudden now there's no hope at finding any potential quarterback unless we go for a guy later in the draft. So to me, the happy medium is trading down a few picks. When you look at the next few picks after the Browns in the draft, you've got Baltimore, who has their quarterback situation, you know, pretty solidly locked up, I would say. Jacksonville just drafted their quarterback. Dallas needs a backup quarterback, but they're not going to be taking a quarterback at number 4. San Diego may be interested in working on where they're going to go next, but not necessarily a team that has to take one. I think the first team that has to go after a quarterback after the Browns would probably be San Francisco at number 7. So there's some room there for the Browns to play where I could see them potentially dropping down to 5 or 6, picking up an extra early pick in the draft, and still being able to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft, and perhaps saying, okay, if one of those teams wants to take one off the board, we still get the other one. Because I think then you can talk yourself into perhaps taking that guy. Because then my next question is, just looking at even mock drafts and all this different stuff that people get out there, who do you think the Browns take at number 2 if it's not a quarterback?
Well, just based on what I said earlier about Joey Bosa, maybe not being the greatest fit in Ray Horton's 3-4.
Right.
Maybe you steer away from him. Oh boy, you've got to assume that the Titans are going to go with Laramie Tunsil, the big tackle, at 1. I mean,
he's going 1. You got to think that.
That's been thrown around. They need a bookend to protect Mariota, boy, I honestly don't know. There's so many needs on this team. A lot of people saying these days, guys like Miles Jack, UCLA linebacker, you know, people calling him the best player in this draft. A lot of people have him number 1, number 2, number 3 as far as best player available. Pass rushing outside linebacker. Goodness knows this team needs somebody like that to get after the quarterback. So I would assume that might be a possibility. But I honestly agree that now people are talking about that Dallas wants to get a quarterback high. Some people question whether they're going to use, you know, that number 4 pick. Is that they have 4, that they might not go that high, but other people have them. Maybe even trying to trade up and snag that first pick from the Titans to pick one. So a guy that they love, whether it's Carson Wentz or whoever it is. But I've seen guys like Mike Mayock and some of these other evaluators that legitimately have Carson Wentz as top 5 player. If he is, and if the Browns are convinced of that, Mary Kay heard her say the other day that the Browns seem to favor Goff over Wentz right now. But like I say, there's a lot of time between now and then, and you know both of those guys will be in Cleveland getting worked out and being looked at up one side and down the other between now and April.
And you know what, between now and them, too, some other questions that need to answer themselves for the Browns before the draft even comes into focus. Josh Gordon, there's a big question right there because the potential return of Josh Gordon makes your wide receiver decision go a different direction because otherwise, are you looking at, if you're not going quarterback, are you looking at a Treadwell? Are you looking at some of these wide receivers that are out there? I mean, that changes if you have a Josh Gordon coming back in the fold, which it appears that again, everything I'm hearing is that all things are leaning in that direction, not just with the Browns, but with the league in general. I mean, obviously it has to play itself out. But, I mean, all that stuff goes into the consideration too, man. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously they've been picking and poking and prodding them in their underwear for a couple of days here. That gave us something to talk about. But I think the next few weeks, as next week the new league year kicks in. I believe it's a week from Tuesday. I believe a week from tomorrow, the new league year officially begins. It's March 9th, I think, and that's when things can start really progressing towards perhaps whatever decisions are made with a Johnny Manziel, whatever beginnings of forming a new roster are, because I think what happens between now and then will go a long way into seeing which way that they go. And obviously you've got a boatload of pro days between now and then as well.
Sure, and by the way, with Josh Gordon, I believe he will be back, and we know that he's in great shape because we've seen all the workout photos, and he was working out with Pryor, and it'd be interesting to see if Pryor is brought back too. But
what do you think about that?
To me, I'd like to see it because
I think Hugh Jackson likes him. I think
you've got a big physical guy with speed and. Made a couple of plays, a play here and there for this team while he was out there last year. But I don't think it affects the Browns' drafting strategy at possibly even at 32. I don't think it too, but certainly at 32. You hope and pray that a guy like Michael Thomas might even be there at 32, although I doubt it. You see, he got measured with 10 1/2 inch hands, bigger than every quarterback in the draft. Michael Thomas hands over 10 inches. And at 6'3", 212, and he's running today, I believe. But haven't seen his 40 time yet. But if he runs well, he's a top 20 pick. Even there's several wide receivers, and I'd like to think that they would still be looking wide receiver no matter what, because Gordon is still going to always have a big question mark hanging over his head, and one pee and a cup away from being banned for life. So. I think that they'll still be looking to draft big wide receiver, and obviously, hopefully, someone like a Michael Thomas or an Aaron Burbridge from Michigan State, or somebody that you could pair up with Josh Gordon and not be a one-trick pony on offense and throw a Hartline back in there and have three legitimate guys.
And you know what? Obviously, nobody wants to hear the discussions of the more mundane positions to talk about in the draft along the offensive line and stuff, but obviously there'll be questions there depending on some of the decisions that come down and some of the Browns' own free agent decisions. I mean,
right. I'm hoping against hope, Jerry, that between now and Friday, March 4th, that is the day for Alex Mack to opt out,
make his
or
decision.
not.
Yeah.
And the club has said, hey, we're trying to sign him, and Mack seems to be giving positive vibes, positive comments about really wanting to stay here if they can work something out. I don't know how his agent feels about that. His agent probably wants to opt out and go test the waters and let the Browns compete with everybody else. But I just know that, to me, that's the most important off-season event is the signing or not signing of Alex Mack.
Absolutely. And then
and I don't think there's anything more important than that.
I agree. And then that ripple determines a lot of things because it'll affect, hey, what is your value? And think about this, you got the changing of these regimes and everything. What does the new guys think of, the guys that you drafted, the Cam Irvings? Are these guys truly potential replacements or are they not? And now we have to find another one. You know what I mean? Because you got a whole new group of eyes evaluating this roster. And so it'll be interesting. But like you said, I think that's one of the most important ones as well, even more than Gibson. Defensively, I think that's key because that's the center of your line. And then obviously decisions go from there. So we'll see. And you know what? Next week, they'll be wrapping up the combine and stuff. We can start going down that way, not just with the Browns quarterbacks, but if they're not going quarterback, where are they going? Some of the questions we talked about here, we can do that. We'll have a couple of not real and not even close to real Indians games to talk about and a few more Cavs games. So next Monday, the wheels of progress will keep moving. We should have a lot of things to talk about.
That sounds great, Jerry. Always fun to be with you. You have a good week.
You got it. My man, Dan Wismar. Check him out. EverybodyHatesCleveland.com, and he's here every week with me live on the show. We're calling it a day, fellas. We'll be back here a week from today, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. I'll be on the radio Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, March 2nd, 7 p.m., 1330 a.m., WINTradio.com. Be calling the latest playoff game for Willoughby South as the Rebels head to the Euclid semifinals in that district as March Madness rolls on. All kinds of things going on, guys. Look forward to talking to you. Facebook, Twitter, email. Stay in touch with me, and let's hear what you got going on. Matter of fact, speaking of hearing what you got going on, before I hit the break, I'm going to get out of here talking to you. I've got a couple of calls here on the phone lines. Let's go to them as we get ready to go. Caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
J-Rocc Daddy, this is Ron Graham calling. I'm happy to do the tweets again today. I got one thing to tell you, and that is that if the Browns take Joey Bosa with the number 2 pick, I will sleep well at night. Looking forward to your response. Have a good show.
All right, there you go. Ron Graham will sleep well at night if the Browns take Joey Bosa with the number 2 pick in the draft. How about you? Hit me up, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with me at thesportsfixcle. Email me, thesportsfix@AOL.com, and let me know what you think. I'll be back a week from today to let you know what I think as we roll on with the next edition of the Sports Fix Live. We love you, Cleveland, and beyond. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week live right here on The Fix, baby.
Put your hands up in the air, everybody say yeah, yeah, yeah.